Right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for attending the meeting on the 12th of May 2020. I will start the meeting by handing you over to our town clerk, who will go through what we hope will be a good virtual meeting. Tina, I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody who's joining us in the live stream tonight, as this is our first virtual meeting that's being streamed live through to YouTube. Our participants who are joining us on YouTube will have the ability to ask questions and comment live. So the first up to 15 minutes of the meeting is for the public to put their questions into us. So as they get put into YouTube, they will appear in the comments section on the meeting for the councillors, and then we will be able to hopefully answer your questions. After the 15 minutes, still feel free to put questions in there. However, they won't be part of the meeting once we've moved on to the next agenda item. And the recordings will remain on YouTube, so it is available for the public to view at any time that they wish to, in order for us to keep the transparency of our meetings going in this present situation. So I would like to invite the public to start typing their questions, and if I hand back to our chair in a moment. For your information, when we do the voting, what will happen is that the minute secretary, Chris Crimmon, will actually read out the councillors' names in alphabetical order, and they will state what their vote is. So that's the way that we'll be voting this evening. There is polls that we can do, but we're going to save those for the next meeting once we've had a chance to practice doing that a bit more for live meetings. So I'll hand you back to the chair. Thank you.
Right, Joe, have we got anybody waiting to talk, please? Ask questions? No. So just to the members of the public, if any of you want to ask a question, you've got within the next 15 minutes to ask. So if you want to ask a question, can you please start typing it in now? Thank you.
Just to clarify, Madam the Mayor, that once we move to the next agenda item, that public forum will be closed.
That's correct. I can't wait the whole 15 minutes. If I don't get any questions within a few minutes, I will then move on to the full town council, when then public can't join in, just listen. I have a question from Councillor Roy Bryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering whether we know who is here and who isn't. I see there are lots of people saying they're having trouble and things. So are we going to have a roll call so that we know who's here?
I will do that when I start the agenda, because I know that one person keeps flashing up that he can't get in. One councillor.
Thank you.
I'm going to call a roll call when we start the meeting proper, if I may.
Yeah.
If we check if there's any questions, it's now 7:05. So if there's no questions now, I would suggest that we move on with the agenda, please.
Okay. No questions.
Would you like me to call the councillors?
No, not yet, because I'm going to go through the agenda, and then you're. Well, I'll start off with 865/19, declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interests. Has anybody got any?
Councillor Jeremy has his hand up.
Councillor Jeremy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. 874/19 for the small grants. I remain an employee of Charles Burrell Centre, which is one of the applicants for a small grant, so declaring an interest there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would also, as the mayor, declare an interest because Keystone has applied and I'm a trustee.
I'm on the board of the Charles Burrell Centre, so I just wanted to, it's not a it's a just not a pecuniary, it's just an interest. Yeah.
Yes.
Councillor Barretto has her hand up as well, please.
Yes, hi, Madam Mayor. Is regarding to the same point, because I'm part of the organization, one of the applicants.
Okay.
Which organisation is that, Carla?
Simple Norfolk,
Thank you.
asking for
Yeah, thank you.
grant from the council as well.
Yeah.
Mike Brindle.
Oh, no, thank you very much. I hate to disrupt this, but all I've got on here is the notice of virtual meeting thing. How do I get back to seeing people?
Don't worry about.
You won't be able to until the screen's removed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You can see who's talking, Dennis.
I can hear who's talking.
Right, so moving on, we'll move on to 866/19. Apologies for absence, but we will know that when our secretary does the roll call. So if you'd like to do the roll call.
Yeah. I haven't received any apologies, formal apologies, but the roll call is now then. Carla Barretto. Here, yes. Carla's
Present.
Here. Yeah, Roy Brain.
Present.
Mike Brindle.
Here.
Colin Burnett. No. Dennis Crawford. Here.
Present.
Chris Harvey.
Present.
David Hodges Kingston.
Present.
Jen Hollis.
Present.
Jane James.
Present.
Terry Jeremy.
Here.
Jane James. Mark Robinson.
Here.
Mark Taylor. Stuart Rice.
Present. I think Mark's there, but he might not enable his microphone.
Okay. We'll come back to it in a minute then. So everyone is present with the exception of Colin Burnett. And the mayor is here. I'll tick the mayor off as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now be moving through the agenda, and it's 867/19 standing orders to approve standing orders for virtual meetings. 1 and 2 to agree the format for virtual meetings. So Tina, would you like to take us through that?
Through standing orders, this has been sent out to the councillors prior to the meeting so that they could have a look at it and discuss what they, if there was any amendments that they would like to add to it. So I think I'll hand the floor over to the councillors to discuss any changes they would like to make.
I've got a hands up for an unknown.
Terry.
Terry's an unknown.
Well, that's what he's coming up on mine as.
Oh, yes.
That's
Who's
what he's coming up on mine as.
Who's unknown?
I can confirm that it's Terry that's typed hide hand up.
Okay.
I can confirm that it's Terry that's typed hide hand up.
Okay.
I can confirm that it's Terry that's typed hide hand up. Whoever's watching the live stream on YouTube needs to mute their microphone.
Yeah, because I'm getting the two.
YouTube.
Right. Right. Is that gone?
Yes, it has.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Dermy, then you wanted to say something?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for sorting out that feedback thing as well. I thought it was just me and my computer was going mad, but that's better. Thank you. I think the final version that went out of standing orders didn't include the suggested amendments that I made because there wasn't enough people sort of email back in support. So the clerk mentioned that I could table the amendment at the meeting tonight, which is what I would like to do. I think section 5 could do with a bit of tidying up because 5B, C and E all include the line, and I quote, "This no longer applies until May 2021. So I'd actually propose an amendment so that it's clearer, but also consistent with the revised legislation. And I'd replace that specific wording in each case with, and I quote, "until such time as the council may determine." There's a simple change on B, C and D on section 5 with "until such time as the council may determine," which is the same as what I emailed out, but I don't think everybody necessarily saw that email suggestion, or perhaps it wasn't clear. So I would like to propose that amendment.
I'll second that.
Who was the seconder, please?
I've come out from behind the couch, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you.
Oh, he's turned his microphone on. Well done. Right, so we need to take a vote on that then. Wait a minute, Roy wants to speak. Yes, Roy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought that was what the people were saying from the LGU and various other places, that was statutory, that we could leave it until 21. I don't understand why we would want to change it. Perhaps somebody can give me a reason.
Well, I think having 2021 down is setting the wrong tone. The glass is half empty. Everybody's being scared enough. I'll go with Terry's proposal. It makes me smile.
Anybody else?
To get the proposal right, I really would like a copy of what you're saying, Terry, but you can, if everybody agrees, we can use that wording if you send it to me, please.
Could I just ask Councillor Taylor if he's got his chat up? Because what we're doing is we're asking people to put hands up or HU in the chat so that everybody doesn't miss out on their turn to talk.
I'm not that good yet.
Top right hand corner next to the video sign.
Councillor Hollis has her hands up.
What does it say? Share? Comments?
Councillor Hollis, you can talk while he's...
Yeah, I was just getting myself back into it. Yeah, my impression was it don't have to be done till 2021, so I'm a bit puzzled on why we're not using direction. But I don't know. Will you be taking a vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
I think what it was, we was getting so many, and did this one come out first, or did the other one come out first? This is the latest one, isn't it? That they basically, a council can change it if they want to. Does anybody know? Tina?
Was that not
I think it's all about interpretation, obviously. The interpretation that I have is that we don't have to have these meetings until 2021. At the beginning of the crisis, the government made the decision to remove the necessity for it, but they left the door open for the option to have it at an appropriate time. Right. So I would have thought this would be, if they thought it was situation was going to end relatively soon, or if somebody has to stand down through ill health or death of the councillor, that there is the ability for the council to do this should they deem that appropriate.
Okay, Councillor Brahim, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just asking, I'd just like an answer to the question that I had. As this has been put forward as the recommendation from government, other than apparently it makes Councillor Taylor smile, my question still is, why would we want to change it? We have no reason. Why aren't we going with government recommendation?
Thank you, Roy. I'll move on to Councillor James. She had her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for a piece of clarity, the section in question, section 5, ordinary council meetings, where it is in bold, that normally refers to local government act legislation. And that is why the statement says that this no longer applies until May 2021, because the LAPCP regulations have come into effect, which do take effect until the 7th of May 2021. So it's kind of highlighting that you don't have to if you don't want to. And Terry is absolutely correct in the assessment of until such time as that authority may determine, because that is part 2 of the regulations, section 4, subsection 2. So that caveat already exists within the regulation. So it's kind of quite circular, to be perfectly honest. The bold that it's stating no longer applies to is in reference to the Local Government Act 1972, which does require those items.
Okay, so are you all ready to go to the vote? I think, Councillor Jeremy, if you'd like to read that out again, just to refresh Councillor's mind.
Thank you.
I can, Chair, but I did notice that Mike Brindle had his hand up in the chat box. I don't know if you wanted to call him first.
I'm sorry, I did miss that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you're now saying I can speak, thank you for that. Yes, I'm trying to answer what Roy said. The advantage of the Terry Jeremy made, I think, is that we now have the option. It gives us the option. We can keep to the suggestion that we might like to continue until 2021, or we can change it to suit our own decision. So it gives this council more control if we accept Terry's proposal. Thanks.
Thank you. Roy, Brahim, you have your hand up. Oh, that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would stand up, but then you'd only see me middle.
See anything?
I understand where Mike is coming from, but I'm again at a bigger loss now, because Jane has just said we have that control as and when we need to do it. So why are we changing things before this even starts? Why don't we just go with what government has recommended, and when we need to change it, hopefully this thing will be finished next month, and then we might want to change. I just don't see why we're trying to force an issue, and I still would like to know the answer to the question. Why are we changing it? There seems no need. Am I missing something? Is there a reason and a motive for doing this? I just don't understand why we need to do it.
Right,
Could I try and answer that, please, Madam Mayor?
well, I've got Tina first.
Thank you.
I've got Tina and then you.
I'll quite happily concede to Councillor Brindle, because before we leave this item, just want to check that everybody's happy with the bits about virtual meetings which, if they agree, it obviously enables us to carry on this meeting.
Okay, Councillor Brindle, you can come back in.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I don't think, to answer Roy again, that we're forcing the issue. On the contrary, it's someone else who's forcing the issue. What we're saying is we'd like to keep the option open. We're not requiring anything to happen. It's simply a question of, if things change, as you rightly say, Roy, as they might in a month, then we are ready to make a decision. As it is, the proposal is that we wouldn't be able to make a decision even if things improve in a month or 3 months or whenever. So it gives us the option, and this is the advantage of it, it gives us the option of having our choice to suit our particular circumstances, rather than being guided by a general recommendation. And I like the word recommendation, Roy. It's not a requirement, it's a recommendation. So we're saying let's not be guided by that. Let's keep that option open both ways. We can agree to stay until May 2021, or we can agree to go in later. It keeps us to go in earlier. It continues to give us the option of controlling our own destiny, our own decisions.
Here, here. Here, here.
Shh. Shush. Behave yourselves. Councillor James.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I make the suggestion, therefore, that if that amendment is being looked at, that the actual correct, if we were to look, the part that says no longer applies is part 3, regulation 6C of the new regulations. We could also place in there a reference to part 2, section 4, subsection 2, which clearly states where an appointment would otherwise be made or required to be made at an annual meeting of a local authority, such appointment continues until the next annual meeting of the authority or until such time as that or authority may determine. If we quote that regulation, it covers all bases.
Councillor Jeremy, would that suit you?
Stick to your guns.
I didn't quite catch all of what Jane said, but if she's quoting from the legislation, then yes. I mean, my reason for the amendment is to tidy it up and bring it into line with the actual legislation that's been passed. I wanted to do that as simply as possible, which is why my proposed wording was removing where it says this no longer applies until May 2021. But replace it with until such time as the council may determine. I think both mine and Jane's suggestion arrive at the same place, but perhaps with a different number of words.
Okay. Tina, did you want to come back?
I think that, well, you're asking a clerk, so it's going to be about process, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm asking if you wanted to come back because you did put your hands up.
Yeah, in answer to Terry's question, I would say that because it's our standing order documents, then perhaps it would be better for us to have the reference to the legislation, because then that's always, process is process. And secondly, I would just like to ask if there's any objections to the setup of the virtual meetings within standing orders.
Anybody want to talk on it? Well, should we do them one at a time?
Well, the thing is, it's all part of the same document, so if nobody's got any objections, then that's great.
Right, has anybody got any objections to the changes in the standing orders, the format for meetings? No. Okay, so we need then, is somebody got their mic on? No. Right, so we can move on then. We've all agreed to the changes. And
That's unanimous.
Chris, have you got that down?
Yeah, I say that's unanimous, is it?
Well, nobody's come back to.
No, thank you. Got that.
We will. Sorry, I'm sorry. We can't just say that's unanimous. We have to have the vote.
Okay, then.
So I'll call out then.
Yeah.
Ready? So
Is,
we're going
sorry,
to
can I
vote
just
on
be clear on what we're actually voting on? Have we voted on the proposal that's been, the amendment that's been seconded?
Yes.
It's been proposed and seconded by Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Taylor. As I understand, it's the wording that Terry Jeremy put in, but included in that is to include the virtual meetings. Would that be clear, Terry?
Could I just interject? I think what it was Terry's wording along with the legal reference that Councillor James put forward.
Reference to legislation, yes.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
But just before I go to the vote, I've got Councillor Bryan wants to come in.
That was just going to be my question. I thought it was that we were with Terry's wording and James, and then we were going to vote on whether the virtual meetings was fine. If we're doing all of that, then I'm happy. I wasn't happy with just the first set of proposals.
Okay, so I'm now going to go to the vote, and I will ask Chris to go around the room.
Thank you. So I've got, first of all, Councillor Barretto, for or against or abstain.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Brindle.
I'm voting for the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
For.
Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
Sorry, I was muted, not quick enough. For.
For, yeah, thank you. Councillor Hollis.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor James.
For.
Councillor Jeremy.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Councillor Wright.
For.
Thank you. That's 11 for and 2 against.
And the Mayor.
motion's carried.
Well,
I'm sorry, Councillor Canham.
yeah, I'm abstaining because it's already we've already got 11 votes, so it's carried. Motion carried. All right, thank you very much. So we can now move on to 868/19 minutes of the last meeting of the full council on the 25th of February. I won't go through them all by page, but does anybody want to bring anything up? Because you've all for a while now. Any questions? Nobody's got their hands up, so can I move the minutes? All put your hands up.
Yeah.
Move the minutes.
Move the.
Yep.
Okay.
Done, thank you.
Right, move the minutes. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to the committee reports. So that's 869/19 to receive the following committee reports. And I'll go to personnel first, which is Mark Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to present the unconfirmed minutes of the Personnel Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of March. Page 1, page 2. There's a recommendation on page 3. And the recommendation is that full council accept and adopt the council vacancy policy, Appendix A attached. Look to move the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Can I have some questions on Appendix A?
You may, Dennis.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Right, on the first page of Appendix A, the fourth paragraph, it says, if a by-election is called at a polling station, or a polling station will be set up by the district council, and the people of the parish will be asked to go to the vote. It's the people of the ward, not the parish, because the whole parish can't vote. It's only the people in the ward.
So it's just a question of the wording, Dennis, is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's a typo.
Okay.
It says the people of the parish, and that will be, they will be that. And then further on down, again, it says the people of the parish. Where it says that, I think it should be the ward itself put in there, not the parish, because the whole parish can't vote.
Dennis, thank you for pointing that. I think the clerk's already said it was a typo, so that can be edited and adjusted.
Just before the end of the last one parish, I mean one last paragraph, it says as in this situation there cannot be a by-election. I don't quite understand that. If we're talking about elections all the way through, and then they suddenly say there cannot be a by-election, I don't understand that.
Okay.
If there's not enough candidates for seats at an election, oh no, sorry, before that, it says this also applies when an election insignificant candidates were put forward to fill the vacant seat. Well, further up it said that you put it down to try to find the candidate then, don't you?
I'm sorry, but I can't hear Dennis very well because I think there's a lot of feedback coming through everybody's mics. Could everybody who's not speaking mute themselves, please?
Yeah, okay, here's what it says. Secretary Council a volunteer.
Dennis, before you go any further,
yeah,
it'd be useful if you could actually tell people what page and paragraph you're looking
well,
at.
I'm on the same first page of Appendix 1. I'm at the second to the last paragraph. The end sentence, it says, this also applies when an election of insufficient candidates were put forward to fill the number of seats. As in this situation, there cannot be a by-election. Okay, that makes sense now. I've read it. Thank you again. My mistake there. And the last two bits I've got is if there is not enough candidates for seats in an election, this is not a casual vacancy, and a co-option must be considered. Well, we've done it where it wasn't. We voted so that we could do an election if it's not a casual vacancy. So, is that a change in our procedure then?
Dennis, I can answer that for you. We did actually consider and try two by-elections before we went for the election. So we only have to consider it, which is what we did.
Okay. Okay. And the last little bit is on the next page, top paragraph. On receipt of a written confirmation from the electoral service officer from the district council, the casual vacancy can be filled by means of cooperation. The parish clerk will. Okay, it says can. My issue is with can. The other page says we have to do it by cooperation, and then you've got a can, which then says, you have an option, don't you?
Well, we're now talking about a casual vacancy and not an electoral vacancy. They're different things.
Yes. Okay.
Can I just make a comment? Can I just make a comment?
Please.
Everyone knows it's been quite torturous for us on this journey to deliver a co-option or a councillor vacancy policy. It's been back to personnel on at least 2 occasions, and every councillor's had the option to attend the meeting to input. And I've got a sense of deja vu, as if I'm having a personnel meeting discussing the item again. And I thought we was here on this particular matter to confirm the minutes of that meeting.
Well, we're voting on it, confirm it. This is a recommendation. And I'm under the opinion that if it's a recommendation, you're allowed to question the things before you do your vote. But I'm quite happy to leave with what I've said and just leave it now and move forward as far as my opinion is to the recommendation as it stands. And it's just that there are areas where there are mistakes because you put parish instead of ward.
Well, we can change that, Dennis. I have Roy Brain with his hands up. Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to say the same as Dennis. This is a recommendation for voting on, so perhaps we ought to vote on the recommendation.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Right, Chris, are you ready to take a vote, please, on the recommendation of the?
We need a proposer and a seconder first,
Yeah,
please.
sorry, yeah. Could I have a proposer or a seconder to adopt the recommendations?
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. And the seconder?
I can second.
Thank you. Well, could you do the vote then, please, Chris? Chris, have we lost you, Chris? Secretary
I'm muted because I didn't be sorry. Councillor Barretto.
and
Ford.
Thank you. Councillor Brain.
For.
Councillor Brindle. Councillor Brindle.
can you turn your mic on, Mr. Brindle?
Can't catch it.
Thank you.
Four. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor
I've
Crawford.
been very good and turned it off.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgkinson.
For.
Councillor Hollis.
For.
Councillor James.
For.
Councillor Jeremy.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
We all sound like bad golfers. 4.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
For.
Councillor Canham.
I don't think you need my vote. I think it's
Okay. No,
it's already
well,
gone. Yeah.
I've got to move. So,
Okay, so that proposal.
thank you.
So would you like to move the minutes then, Mark?
Move the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving on to Out Committee. So these are the minutes of Wednesday, the 5th of March. For Amenities, Land and Property. So I'll just run through them quickly. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. There are no recommendations. Move the minutes, or anybody got any questions?
So moved.
Moved. Right, thank you. Moving on. We now go on to the Planning Committee. So that is Councillor Brindle, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to present the unconfirmed minutes of the Planning Committee of the 10th of March. And there is a recommendation when we get to page, well, I'm calling it page 32. Forgive me if that's not the same page for everybody. Would you like me to go through them and offer you page? Is it easier to page 1 and page 29?
That'd be fine, yeah.
And then page 2 or 30? And then 3 or 33? Sorry, 31, can't count. And then 4 or 32. And there is at the bottom of page 32, it's items 870. There's a recommendation that the Planning Committee request an item to be added to the full council meeting to discuss the £75,000 from Breckland Council to shape the brand for the Greater Thetford area prior to a consultation being carried out. So we wanted to discuss the £75,000 that might be available. So I'm hoping that by doing that, we'll agree that at some stage, perhaps at the next full council meeting, we can discuss that.
Any questions from councillors?
No.
No? Okay, so the recommendation needs a seconder. Well, I suppose you're proposing it, Mike.
Yes, I'll propose it if that's helpful.
Yeah. Chris, Jennifer's lost the agenda.
Okay, I'll find it for her. Here we go. This is for
Planning.
the planning, sorry. Here it is. I was on it, sorry.
Yeah, you was on it. Have you still lost it, Councillor?
We want 870. 870/9.
Keep going, you're on planning. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. Here we are. Planning.
Yeah.
And the
Recommendation there.
That's it, Chris. You're on the right page, Chris.
Yeah.
It's on the right place. Have you got it, Councillor Hollis? Can you say yes or no? You've
Yeah.
got to- yeah, so you can see
Yes.
the recommendation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, did we have? Right, did we get a seconder, Mike?
Yeah, I did.
I'll second it.
We did get a second. Someone called out. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, it was me, Jenna.
Okay.
Okay. So Chris, you need to go to vote again to accept the recommendation.
okay. Shall I go through again? Yep.
Yeah,
So here we
sorry.
go then. Carla Barretto. Thank you. Councillor Brame.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Brindle.
4.
Councillor Crawford.
4.
Councillor Harvey.
4.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
4.
Councillor Hollis. Jen.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy.
4.
Councillor Robinson.
I'm going to apologise to colleagues. I should have declared an interest in this because this sits within my cabinet portfolio at Breckland.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I
Yes,
apologise for the lateness of that.
that's all right, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Rice.
4.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a majority there, Chair. Would you like to vote or not, Chair?
Yeah, you've got a majority, so it's no, it's not worth me voting, is it? It's already passed.
Thank you.
Right, move the minutes, Mike.
Yes, I'm happy to move the minutes. And can I just say to Chris that you need to put that as an item on the next month's agenda, please?
I will indeed. I've made a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right, thank you. Right, so we'll now move on to them, which is Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of the Venues, Market and Events Committee meeting for the 11th of March 2020. There's 1 to 9 pages, and on page 9 there's a recommendation on 86419, but that is below the line.
Okay, so we can leave that one. Any questions? Nobody's hands up.
Can
So
you
move the minutes.
move the minutes, please?
All right, thank So we'll now move on to 870/19 Mayor's remarks. You've already had them, received them, so I won't go through them again. And anybody, any questions? No. So we move on to 871/19. Reports from county and district councillors. We've had none come in except for verbally, and that was Roy Brain, please.
I've had one come in and he's given me his report, which is on the screen now. If you wish to read it, Roy, you can.
Well, yeah, when you said that, I didn't really, it's changed a little. I've added a little bit to it. Hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to get it up on my bit. Yeah, I mean, basically, it is just to say that we've been very fortunate in Norfolk. The figures have come through, and the death rate has been under 100, which is absolutely staggering. The mortuary at Scotto is up and running and is ready and basically has been mothballed. And one of the things that people weren't told, and perhaps they should have been, was the fact that not only did they have the mortuary there, they did have a family room all set up so that the people in Norfolk were not going to be in that horrible position where they couldn't say goodbye to their loved ones. I don't know how the social spacing was going to work, but they really had thought quite a bit about it. Adult services and children have also done various bits to try and keep ahead of the game, and I'm sure that you know, we're all hoping that this will disappear, you know, and we will come through it as one of the better counties to live in. And I think congratulations to Norfolk and their staff. It's been really good. I would also like just to say to people that I don't know how many of the public are listening or seeing this, but please be careful with scams. You can't believe that in this sort of situation, you've got people who, you know, really are just out there to try and take people away and take people's money and everything else. It's absolutely disgusting, but we have strange people that we have to live with. But please make sure, keep your bank details to yourselves. Do not go on anything that is not a trusted website. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. The other thing I did want to mention, just on from Breckland, which I didn't put on that report, is that Breckland have done a roll of honour for companies who have helped where they can to sort of support our frontline services. Thetford have been very, very lucky. I mean, Thetford Town Council got a mention, which is nice because our staff have been working really hard, and that's very good. But we also had a company called G-Lock Systems who did PPE visors, 3D printing, and they worked really hard. They were contacted by the ambulance service, and they managed to get 1,500 of these Perspex visors out to them at no expense. I mean, they took all the cost. They have got a website where they're trying to get money for more materials to carry on. I was contacted by West Suffolk Hospital to say how appreciative they had been. So I did take the time to give the guy a ring and say thank you very much for what you're doing. But it's nice to see that Breckland have done this roll of honour, and you know, we have a Thetford company on there. And that's my report.
Right, thank you, Roy. I think Councillor Hollis has a question for you.
Thank you. It's a question for Councillor Brain. Where you're saying children's services are obviously, it's difficult for them with children, needy children, if you like, from families that are in care, home supervised, I think they're called, something like that. I know they attend in school. The schools are open for these children as well. Are they? Do you know if they're still getting the visits from their social workers, or what the contact is? Because I've got one family that have said they've not heard anything. I've been getting them food parcels and that, but it's a bit difficult. So is there anything on the lines that the social child services will be contacting these vulnerable families? Please, thank you.
In answer to that, Jenny, I must admit I do not know the answer. As far as I understood, if they had a social worker, social workers were keeping up with all of their normal contacts. But if this hasn't been happening, if you'd like to email me some contact details, I'll see if I can get things moved. I was talking to the cabinet member yesterday, and he was saying that these are the sort of little bits that they're really trying to get sorted out, because people tend to think, oh, it's not going to happen, and they don't do anything about it. But we are geared up. We have got the people there. So get me the contact details and we'll see if we can move things across. We don't want anybody falling through any little holes. We've got to make sure that we look after the vulnerable.
Thank you very much. I'll sort that out for you tomorrow and get it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if I made a mistake there. Did I do town council represented on other bodies and then let Roy talk?
You did say there wasn't any report from them, but somebody might like to give us a report.
Right, that's that. Yeah, we're working under county council. Yeah.
Yeah, mine was county council.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there any other council that wants to bring anything in under representatives on other bodies or county and district councils?
Yes. Brenda, may I say something?
I've got a hand up for an unknown.
Sorry, Brenda, that's me again. I don't know why it's coming up unknown.
Because you're using your own tablet.
Oh.
You're using your own tablet.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to butt in when Roy was talking, but I do think we need to be really careful about statistics, because and I've just double checked, but according to the NHS website, where it lists deaths per county, the actual death figure for Norfolk as of yesterday is actually 338, not under 100. And the key point as well, as was made at the cabinet meeting at Norfolk on Monday, is that that's purely deaths in hospitals. And we know that there's a major issue in care homes too. So it's 338 just in hospitals in Norfolk, with no doubt an alarming number for care homes too, including care homes in Thetford. So I just wanted to clarify some of those statistics there, because they're up on the screen, and I've just double checked with the NHS website, and it is a lot higher than that.
Well, thank you for that, Terry. I have Councillor Brendan.
I just say that is probably correct, Terry. I got my figures last week, so I hadn't had a chance to recheck. Sorry about that.
Right, that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Brenda. It's a bit complicated because we're trying to do two things at once, but I wanted to go back to 871, which is the town council reps and other bodies, just to say a word about the amazing work that's been done by a whole range of people to make sure that food is getting to those who need it in Thetford. And just to add to that list, that the Charles Burrows Centre has gained some funding from the Prince's Countryside Fund, so that they're able to take part as well. I think it's the case that there are now plenty of people providing food parcels and support for people who need food. The key thing is whether we've missed anyone out, as Roy said, it's just making sure people don't get dropped through our holes somewhere. So the great encouragement is to make sure that people know that help is out there if they ask for it. Thank you.
Can I put my hand up, Madam Mayor?
If you push your little what's it and put hands up, you can do it. But go on.
I think it's broken, so I'll have to break in verbally.
Okay, just give me a little cough. Off you go.
I just wanted to back up what Terry's saying there against Councillor Brame. I think we're playing top, middle and bottom. Councillor Brame's come in with the middle statistics. To a certain extent, Terry's come in with top statistics, and there's a lot of people saying that the statistics are not as bad as what everybody's making out, and people are making skullduggery across the board with statistics. So I think at a town level, we shouldn't be talking about statistics because we'll only end up having an argument. Thank you.
And I guess we all know somebody that's had it, got it, died, or recovered, and whatever it is, it's, you know.
I don't know anybody.
Have you, well, I do. I know quite a few. So, but we shall move on unless anybody else has got any more reports. And yes, I would like to give a big thank you to all those out there that have been volunteering. I know there's some in the Keystone Centre, well, 2 lots, one at the Innovation Centre and one at Abbey, that, you know, they're going around volunteering. The Charles Bowles Centre have been doing it, Sharon Thompson. There is so much community spirit that's been going on, and just people just doing day-to-day things. I know councillors are running about for other people, you know, they're not broadcasting that, but, you know, if they get the phone call, they're out there. So just to say thank you very much to you all. The next is 874/19, which is, oh no, sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. That's because somebody's put the grants up. No, that's not the.
Sorry.
I know that's not the next agenda item. You've confused me.com. 873/19, mayor making, and just for the public, as we discussed earlier about changing the way councillors work. And some of you may know the government have made legislation to say that an AGM stroke mayor making can be delayed until 2021. Due to the fact that normally it's a big public event where where a lot of the towns and parishes have an event in their guild hall where people can come along. They might not do internet or anything like that, but it gives them the opportunity to take part in that. So that's where we're coming from there. So mayor making, you consider council's response to changing it in legislation. I have trouble with that word. Unknown, oh, it's Terry HU. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've learned I'll put my name in front of my hand up and then you'll know it's me. You know what I'm going to propose because I have emailed you about it directly, and just out of courtesy really to let you know. But I'd like to propose that the Town Council organises its annual town meeting to take place when convenient, but before the end of May 2020, to include the election of mayor and deputy mayor for 2020/2021 mayoral year. And I do so on the basis that we're very fortunate that our mayor-elect is a very experienced business person and community leader. And given his senior role at Breckland that he's held for a number of years, he will be well placed to fulfil the mayoral role in what is going to be a really difficult year for lots of Thetford residents. Having spoken to him, I know that he's happy to take on the challenge, which I think is very good of him. You know, lots of people would miss the civic aspect of the role, but Mark, I know, is a guy that can get his hands dirty, get out there and represent our town in what's going to be a different sort of year, but I think he'll be up for that challenge. And that's why I think, as long as he's happy to accept it, and I believe he is, I'd like to propose that we carry on and go ahead with our annual town meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Stuart, you had your hands up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following on from Terry's comments, I think if Mark is willing to do the role, then I would support him to do that. What I wouldn't want to do is to feel that a mayor's coming in and getting shortchanged on the civic side of it. But as Terry said, Mark has a lot of experience going around various places and meeting people. And if he's willing to take the role on, I'll totally support that.
I think I've got Roy. Roy Brain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps now we know why we wanted to change the rules at the beginning of the meeting. As far as I'm concerned, it takes away not only from Mark, but from you. You've done a super job this year. You've had the worst year that anybody could have. I'm sure the other past mayors would agree that the civic side is a major honour to be given for the year. You can meet various people. You know that there are several chairmen who have not been able to have their receptions, who will be having it, hopefully, in the latter part of May 21 or before May 21. Those people are all staying in position because it's only fair to them to give them their year, and it's only really fair to give you yours. You've lost a quarter of your year, and it's really unfair. And for Mark, I think it's totally unfair to take away, which will be over half his year. He's just going to be the mayor that never was. And I feel that it's really, really shame that we as councillors would do that to two of our own for whatever games are being played. I don't understand. Unless, of course, as Mark is so well in with the district and such an experienced councillor, are we going to change the rules and actually delegate him powers to make decisions? Because if we're not, then he will come back as his cabinet member to us councillors so we can make the decisions. Makes no difference whether Mark's mayor, deputy mayor, he is a councillor for Thetford, and I'm sure he will do everything he can as a cabinet member. Unless, as I say, if we're going to delegate, because he is so good, we're going to delegate him the power that no other mayor has ever had to make these decisions on his own without us, because if we're not going to do that, let's let him have his civic year and enjoy being the first citizen of Thetford and meeting the people of Thetford, not being stuck on a virtual meeting where he never gets to see anybody. This could go on until January, February, and it's not fair to put somebody into that position. I defy any of the past mayors to say that they would not have missed their civic days.
Have you got insider information with your dates?
I've got Jenny next.
Thank you. I'm inclined to agree with Roy to the extent that I think it's. I mean, you've lost your quarter of your year or mayoral year. I know that the chairs and mayors of the other towns have said once they have their mayors, it's yourself that they are going to invite because you're the one that's done the work with them for this past few months. Mark will miss out on a lot because regardless of how long this lasts, we don't know. It's not fair on him to turn round and say, like Roy has said, you know, he's going to get part of a year sitting here like you are now doing this because he can't go out and meet people. Yes, he is a brilliant businessman. Yes, he is clever at what he does. I wouldn't take that away from the man, but he can't put them to use until this is over, which could end up being December, January. I do not see the point. And changing the mayor and changing chairs, I really don't see the point because we can't do anything more than what we're doing now. So, no, I support Roy on that one.
Madam Mayor, could I say that next it's Carla Barretto and then Mike Brindle and then Mark Taylor put his hand up as well. So that's Carla, Mike Brindle, Mark Taylor.
Yeah, I have got them down. So, Carla.
Hi, thank you, Madam Mayor. On this point of changing mayorships and chairmanship, I beg to disagree with Councillor Brame and Councillor Hollis. There are on a few points, actually. One of them is that I think Councillor Brame mentioned that we should give more power to the new mayor by appointing him this year if we should choose to do it so. I disagree with that. I don't think he has any more power than other mayors before him, and not many more powers than others that come after him. I think what he does have is a challenge in here where things work in a slightly different way. Well, slightly is an understatement. In a very different way, because everything is in with distance measures, and all the meetings are online. So it is a different world we find ourselves in. Well, this was bound to happen. We were bound to progress into a virtual and more technology-orientated systems. What the whole COVID-19 thing issue done is to speed that up by 15 or 20 years for most authorities and for most committees and institutions out there. So we find ourselves pressuring into the future. Having done that, and we've done that quite successfully because we all here in this meeting online, being streamed, which is phenomenal. I find that this shouldn't deter us to act as a council and to continue to persevere as a council. The reason is we have a picture for each mayor on the wall of our chambers. Now, what would that say of Thetford Council if for the year where COVID-19 struck the nation, we left an empty space saying COVID-19 rather than having the name of a mayor on the wall? I think that would just this would be us as a people, as a town, as citizens, and as councillors giving in. I think as a show of perseverance, we ought to continue to do business as usual. And we owe it to the people that elected us and put us here, because we ought to represent them. We ought to push our sleeves up and continue to do the work. Those are some of the reasons why I think the mayor should continue. Nothing to do with, Madam Mayor, with wanting to finish your year earlier or later, or Councillor Robinson wants starting earlier or later. It really is about continue to do what we set ourselves to do on a regular manner, and do not let the state of affairs and do not give in to what's already a chaotic system and a difficult time for everybody by allowing that to change the way you operate as a council. We ought to evolve, but not to change necessarily. So I would be in favor of things to progress the way they were supposed to be. That picture will go on the wall. Each one of you would have your year. I do take my hat off to Councillor Robinson on this situation. If he's willing to take on mayorship in a year where it doesn't benefit of the glamour or the contact of the civic side of the meetings with the public, it is unfortunate, but if he's willing to do it and to put himself out to service as a mayor during a year such as this, I think it's commendable, and I think I'll be enforced to it. Thank you.
Right, Mike.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm still a bit confused by Roy's extraordinary suggestion that going ahead with the appointment of a new mayor in the time-honoured way that I remind you that we normally do would somehow give him extra power. That's just nonsense. I think the important thing is that, as has been pointed out, Mark should have an opportunity to enjoy both sides of the year, the active, decisive decision-making side and the civic side. And it seems to me that by the time we came to elect a new mayor in February 2021, we would have a clear view as to whether Mark had a fair year or not. And it's at that stage that we should say, let's extend his year if appropriate, so that supposing he'd missed, for the sake of argument, 3 months, we would say, then let's postpone the change of mayor to, for example, August or September 2021, so that a year has been offered. In that way, we'd be acting when we know what the reality is, rather than assuming, as Roy rather did, I think, that it would be 9 months or whatever length of period. We don't know that. Things may go better than that. As Roy's pointed out, everyone's working very hard to make sure things go better than that. I suggest that, therefore, we go ahead with the appointment of the new mayor, and we take into consideration next February whether we think that Mark has had a fair crack of the whip as mayor. If he seems to have had a rather short year, particularly on the civic side, we then say, OK, let's extend the term of office, because by then we'll know what we're talking about. At the moment, it's pure guesswork.
Well, I have Roy and then Jane.
What about me?
Oh, sorry. Yes, councillor Taylor, you go first, and then it's Roy, then Jane.
I see nothing changes. No, my vision, or the way I understand the mayor, I can see why I'm out of sync with some of you other councillors. The mayor to me should be the focal point for the council, and especially with local businesses working together for the good of the town. And then, you know, if that comes to fruition and money is made for the mayor's charity at the same time, that's good. But I think personally it's about the business, because if business is good in the town, it's good for the people, it brings jobs. Mayor being the focal point, he helps the businesses. Now, the one thing that's going to be suffering at the minute in our town is the business. And what we need when we come out of this nightmare is a focal point on the town council of somebody who understands business. That is why I understand Mark is on the cabinet at Breckland, but somebody's got to be dynamic, pick up good ideas, get business working alongside with the council and get this town moving. And we don't want to be back to where we were over the last few months, where I personally think it wasn't that dynamic. What's this power to the mayor that the other characters going on about? I just don't understand that.
I think he's going to give you an answer.
But I can't understand it. The mayor is there for the year. This would set a precedent that we don't need. We need a dynamic mayor in on the date that we've decided. We've already decided to put him in with the with how we've already voted for him prior to Mary making. Let's just get him in the chair and get him working. The town needs it. Thank you.
Right. I have Roy and then Jane James.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't said that he should. The reason that everybody said that Mark should be the mayor is because, as Councillor Taylor, which is Councillor Taylor, has just said, he would be dynamic. He would be this. No, he wouldn't. He would be what we allow. We are the councillors. We decide, although it appears that Councillor Taylor thinks that Mark can do these things with business on his own. He cannot. He has to be a part of this. In answer to Mike, who is saying we could give him 3 months at the end. It doesn't work like that, Mike. Every other council is going to be working to a mayoral year. You can't have somebody, you know, when you become, the lovely part about it for you in this case is, I mean, I would have been devastated and I may have spoken differently had we been going into a election year where, as we've had before, mayors don't get re-elected. But that's not a case in 22. You are guaranteed. So why don't we let each mayor have their full year? Rather than adding 3 months to Mark, it's a lot easier to let Brenda stay in position because nothing's happening civically. There is nowhere to go. And then when the chairs who haven't had their year, they can invite Brenda as the mayor. It is how the mayoral system works. It's why all the other councils in Norfolk, Suffolk, Ely are doing the same thing. They are trying to allow their chairs, their mayors to have that full year. And by Mark taking over in 21, it just puts the whole system back to where it should be civically. It's the way that it works. It doesn't matter that Mark's a businessman. It doesn't matter how good he is as a businessman. That's not how the mayor works.
You're making this up as you go along at the minute, I think.
You cannot, just because you're the mayor, go and see businesses and do all of these things. It is not allowed. You have to bring it back to the council and say, can the officers go and see these people? The mayor does not have any right differently to any other councillor. You can't do anything off your own bat, nor can any other councillor. You have to have the council's involvement. But by putting Mark into that position, he's going to finish up where his year is not going to be as the first citizen of Thetford. Because even when it comes to the other part of it, he may not get any reception at all. He may well not get any Christmas carol services. He may not get the things. Brenda has missed out on VE Day, which was going to be absolutely fantastic, and she misses out. I'd like her to still be in position so that when we have a Beat the 19 festival, she is there as our mayor who took all the stick throughout this horrible year to stand there and say, we won, Thetford won, and Thetford did it properly. And that's what we should be doing. As councillors, we should be supporting Brenda as the mayor and supporting Mark as the deputy mayor and mayor-elect. He knows in 21 he's going to go through. It's absolutely as it should be. I would like to say that we also take a vote that light carries on.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, could I just interrupt because we've got several hands up. I know that Councillor Taylor came in, but we've got several hands up from Councillor James, Barretto, Brindle and Jeremy. You know, so if we could get to those as well, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go over to Jane now. Jane James.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to throw a little bit into the mix and perhaps consider what I would say is everything that the Mayor is able to do, you'll find it in the civic policy. I know you've all got a lot of reading time at the moment. With a serious head on, ultimately the annual town meeting, as we've already discussed and we went through with standing orders, the Local Government Act dictates that we hold our annual meeting in May. That is when that chairperson is changed. That has currently been disapplied as per the regulations and as per the additions that we noted. It is within this council's power, should they decide, and as Councillor Brindle rightly observed, if this goes on too long, what could happen is this council could decide not to extend it because that is not the annual town meeting and the annual appointment, but they could decide for the mayor to continue for another year. And there is perhaps an argument for that in terms of how good he's doing or she is doing and how well things are going. So I just wanted to offer that as an alternative, that within the legislation, that annual appointment is made at the annual meeting. Normally, the legislation and the regulations are till the 7th of May 2021 currently, and I use that word because obviously things can change. So there are options available and there is all sorts of flexibility. I don't believe that a 3-month extension would be appropriate though. Thank you.
Right, who was next? Was it Carla Barretto? Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points in regard to Councillor James. I think she is right. It is the discretionary power of the council as a whole to make those decisions. I agree with her in the point that extensions might not be the best appropriate measure. I think we ought to decide whether we're going to keep the same mayor or whether we're going to change into the new mayor in one go and just do it that way. I don't think pushing mayoralship time back and forth is going to do anything for the situation. There was a point where Councillor Brame mentioned he mentioned, I quote, this is the way it works. Now, I don't believe that's the way it works. I believe it's only the way it works when the councillors vote on it and approve it. I think it's become the way it works when the councils decide that they should work. And I think he's right on the point that the mayor will only do his work with the support of the other councils. After all, the mayor is nothing more, nothing less than one of the councillors has been appointed to represent the other councillors and the town as a whole. And the other point is, I mean, we really come down to the basics. What is the mayor's role supposed to be? I know it's got a civic role. When it comes down to it, what is the mayor? Is the person in leadership, is the face of the council for their year, and is the person who represents all the other councillors and the interests of the town. Therefore, I don't think our decisions should be solely based on how many parties or how many events the mayor is going to attend, but what can we do for the people and its residents during the year there is in position, regardless in the middle of pandemic or not. Today may be a pandemic, tomorrow can be a full-on disaster. It doesn't matter. What matters is the person that is appointed has got a job to do for a year, regardless of how challenging that job is. And when that person accepts that post, and it seems like Councillor Robinson has done so, has accepted that challenge, clearly, that person is prepared to take that on, regardless of the situations in which the town finds itself in. Thank you.
I have, was it Mike next?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to come back on what Roy said, because I think he rather gave the game away by saying that the activities, the December activities wouldn't be able to take place. The game that's given away is we don't know, do we? We don't know. So let's carry on calmly with the normal system, choosing a new mayor, which we haven't already done once, this is to confirm it, and allowing him to both the needs of the occasion, the needs of the and have a good civic year. There is a way around that, which is to allow a possible extension, and I think that would cover all the angles. The point is that by next February, we will know how long the bad times have lasted. At the moment, it's pure guesswork. They say a year, it could be 3 months, it could be 2 years. We just don't know. So let's just go calmly ahead with the system that we normally run and then review it after we know. We'll be speaking with confidence. If the mayor's lost 3 months, let's give him 3 months. If the mayor's lost 6 months, let's give him 6 months. But we do afterwards, when we know the length of time, we don't try and second guess the powers of the virus now when we just don't know.
The next hand up was Terry Jeremy.
Terry Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of comments in reply to some of the points, but then hopefully we can then move to a vote. I'm really sorry that actually you haven't been able to complete your year, and particularly around VE Day. And I'm really sorry that Mark's year is going to be interrupted or changed. The fact of the matter is, there are people that are dead. There are people that have lost jobs, are going to have real financial difficulties for the year ahead. We are where we are. There's utterly nothing we can do about that. But we're in a position where the mayor-elect, in my opinion, has got a particular skill set that at this moment in time will be a really good choice to take the council forward. And that's my sole reason for voting. Well, I'm sorry, Roy. Actually, I think that's really rude of you to say that I've got ulterior motives. Mark's not even a member of my political party, but I recognise that he's got skills which we need as a community at the moment to take us forward. And that's why I think, let's go ahead and do it. And if the council so wishes, then so be it. If you remember, when we changed the council rules a few years ago, we changed the order from vice mayor, deputy mayor to mayor. I never got to be the deputy mayor of Thetford. I went straight in to be the mayor, and then I was finished. We all have unfortunate circumstances, and we have to make decisions that are right at that moment in time. And I think actually the decision which I've proposed at the moment is right in the best interests of the residents of the community, and that's ultimately why the vast majority of us, I think, get involved. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'd suggest that we move to the vote.
Moving to the vote. Do we still have to say publicly Tina, I'm asking you, do we still have to tell the people publicly why we're changing now?
I think that if the justification is as proposed, that it's because they think an individual's leadership qualities are what is required, and that is what's put forward, then then that's up to the council, really.
But when you say that, when you say that that leadership from that's actually his job as a Breckland councillor anyway, isn't it? Because people come back and say, but that's his job anyway.
With respect, Madam Mayor, I don't think it's my place to be discussing that point.
I don't know. I'm just thinking what the public are saying.
Hello.
Hey,
okay then.
Hello.
Hello. Who's that?
I think you'll find that's Councillor Taylor.
Just waiting for the mayor to give permission to speak.
You can speak.
Thank you very much. Not like you.
Yes, I've never been that bad.
My point is, if we're going to justify anything to the public, the justification we'd have to give is for changing our system. Our system is we in effect do a pre-selection based on the system we've had for the last 3 or 4 years, which we've already done, and we change the mayor in May. We just can't have a normal jamboree because of what's going on. We just change them anyway for the reasons which some of us have stated, and we wouldn't have to tell the public. We'd have to tell the public why we keep the mayor in for a second year. And until February next year, according to Councillor Brahim, we just go with the system. We change the mayor, and we don't have a big jamboree about it. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've got Councillor Hollis, and then we'll go to a vote. Councillor Hollis.
Yeah, thank you. At the end of the day, yes, Mark's very good. I'm not going to knock the man. He's very good. But as has been pointed out, that's his part. You can scoff as much as you like, Mark Taylor. You can do it as much as you like. You like to bring the committees into disrepute. Let me finish. His job is at Breckland. That's his job there. We are set for town. And do you really think, well, this is all going on, that the residents are really worried if they get a new mayor or not? Because my concern at the time is not if we get a new mayor or not, is to make sure that little man round the corner gets his food delivered, his prescriptions delivered, and that there's a child in need that gets help. Now, that's my concerns. Not if you change mayors or not. I don't care. At the end of the day, my concern is the residents of this town. And if you find that changing committees and mayors is more important than that, then there is some kind of wrongdoing somewhere.
Okay, so Chris, I'm going to go.
Yes, what I'd like now then is that I've got a proposer in Councillor Jeremy and a seconder in Councillor Taylor. I'd really like, Terry, your wording, please.
Thank you, Chris. I would propose that Thetford Town Council organise its annual town meeting to take place when convenient, but before the end of May 2020, to include the election of mayor and deputy mayor for the 2020/2021 mayoral year. And I'll email that to you, Chris, for ease.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
Well, just before you go to a vote, hope it's is it a quick one, Roy?
Yes, very quick. Terry's first statement and first proposal was that if Councillor Robinson was prepared to accept, I think perhaps we all ought to hear from Councillor Robinson. It may help us all make our minds up.
Actually, thanks for the invite, Roy, but actually, having listened to my obituaries for the last 30 minutes, your decision, colleague, should not be based on personalities. It should be what's the best on town for the town. Because I remind you all, that we are here for our residents solely, you know. So I'm not going to make any personal pleas either way on this. It is for your conscience to make a decision.
Right, Chris, if you'd like to go.
Okay. I'll start with the vote then now, if I may. So first of all, councillor Barretto, please, for or against or abstain?
Sorry, I will vote in favour to Councillor Jeremy's recommendation.
For the proposal, yes, thank you. Councillor Brame?
I'll support Brenda Canham and vote against it.
Thank you. Councillor Brendel?
I'm in favour of the proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey?
For.
Councillor Hodgkinson?
I'm for the proposal.
Councillor Hollis?
Sorry. Against.
Thank you. Councillor James?
Abstain.
Yeah. Councillor Jeremy?
For.
Councillor Robinson? Mark Robinson? Sorry, I missed it, Mark. Can I ask what your vote is, Mark Robinson, please? It's breaking up.
Sorry, Chris, it would help if I turned the microphone on.
That's okay.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor? Councillor Taylor? Councillor Taylor, can you hear me?
Jeez.
Mark Taylor, could you come on, please?
For.
For. Thank you. Councillor Wright?
For.
Councillor Canham?
I don't think it's worth me voting, do you?
No.
I think you've got 8 already.
Yes, yeah. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favour. So it's carried.
That's carried. Okay. So congratulations, Mark, whenever we do it. So moving on now is 874/19, which is small grants, and I'd like to hand over you to Ros, our grant officer. Can you come in, Ros?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, do you mind if I swap the 2 agenda items round? So we do the policy and administration bit first and then the grant consideration afterwards.
Okay.
So as most people will know, we have a small grants pot every year of £6,000. The ALP committee members were very keen to get that money out as quickly as possible to the groups that needed. So I sent an email round to people proposing that we would try and speed up the process and target those groups that were helping in the community. This was the idea of a small group of councillors on the ALP committee, which we circulated out to the full committee, and 6 of the committee members came back and said, oh, that's a great idea, let's progress with that. And the proposal was that we would, for COVID-19 applications, so only for organisations helping for COVID, they would be able to submit their application form. That if they'd done an application form in the last 4 years, then we wouldn't need all the supporting paperwork. We would use what we had, and that because it's quite difficult to get real signatures, during the COVID crisis is we would accept documentation that hadn't been signed. And at that time, when we sent the email out, we hadn't got the proposal of having a virtual meeting. And so we kind of made the decision by email. However, since those councillors who weren't on the ALP committee, who weren't involved in that decision, did challenge us a bit. So we are proposing that we take that email proposition to the rest of the council for you to consider. So the proposal is that for those organisations that are helping in the COVID crisis, that we would delegate the responsibility of making decisions on those applications by email to the ALP committee members.
Right, so if anybody, I'll do it another way. If anybody's against it, can you please put your hands up? James, you may.
Sorry, it's to ask a question. Is there a reason and rationale behind the 4 years when most sort of reviews, I'm thinking specifically DBS checks and that kind of thing, are 3 years? Would not a 3-year window be better? That would permit relatively recent information, because you'd have current trading year and then you'd effectively have 2 previous years from an organisation rather than 4, and that's a very long time in terms of accounts and governance.
Okay, I've got Jenny Hollis.
Thank you. Funny enough, I was going to say what James just said. Thank you, Jane. Saves my breath. This is just a vote on this item, isn't it? It's not a vote on the groups that have applied.
No,
no, we're doing the bottom one first, because some of us councillors have got to come out of the other to approve the requests. So we're doing the bottom one first. So if anybody,
fine, thank you.
If anyone's against, if anyone's against that, can you raise your hands now if you're against?
How are they going to raise their hands? I'll put their hands up.
Right, hands up.
So I'll take it from that everybody's for to the administration arrangements. Jane James.
Sorry, I'd actually like to propose an amendment from the 4 years to the 3 years.
Okay.
I second that.
Who was that? Second it, please.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chris.
That's Jen, is it?
Yeah.
Is anybody against that proposal? Hands up. No. So that one's
that's carried to change the year to 3 years from 4 years.
Yes, and now it's to approve the following requests, where I think that.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, I think you still need to have a proper vote to agree the actual proposal.
Okay then.
So,
all right, Chris.
Yeah. So I'm going to call it out here for the wording that's on the screen, I hope. But that's going to change from 3 years to 4 years, which is in the second bullet point at the bottom.
No,
from 4 years to 3 years.
I've just realised, Chris, sorry, I've just realised I may have written this slightly confusingly. Because can I just clarify with councillors? Are we giving all of the grant funding pot to those organisations helping for COVID this year, or would we be expecting grant applications from other people who are doing other things? Because when I read that proposal, it looks like I'm saying that we'll use the small grants programs to support organisations that are helping during the coronavirus outbreak. Sorry, I've made it complicated. Jenny's got her hand up, Brenda.
Yeah, Jenny.
Yeah, sorry. No, it should be for others as well. We can't, whoever's doing a great job, brilliant, but it needs to be for other people as well, like we normally do for start-up groups.
Right, I have Jane James's hands up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This proposal relates directly to supporting organisations and groups helping people during the coronavirus outbreak. I think most of us are hoping that it won't last the full financial year. We need to just deal with it as it is. And I believe, if I remember rightly, our normal policy, as it were, says that, you know, it's first come, first served until that pot is emptied. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. And that would be my understanding of it. So that we've targeted the coronavirus, people who are helping with the coronavirus. But once they've had their grants, then it's open to everybody. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And the dispensation for speeding up the grant allocation is only specifically targeted at those organisations that are helping people during the coronavirus outbreak.
Nicely clarified, Councillor James.
That's correct, Jane. Well done. Right, so we'll go to the vote then, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start again with Councillor Barretto, please.
Hi. I think I'm going to abstain on this one for similar reasons why I declared an interest, as I'm part of one of the applicants to one of the grants. Thank you.
This is the second. This is the second part that you're voting on. You're not voting on the first part. You're voting to say that you agree to the changes for the COVID-19 grants. That's all you're voting on.
Thanks for the clarification, Madam Mayor. I'll still abstain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brame, please.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brindle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
For.
Councillor Hollis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor James.
For.
Councillor Jeremy.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Slight vested interest, so abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
For.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor.
I don't think I need to vote, Chris. I think you've got a majority of votes
Carried.
there.
Thank you very much. Yes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, and the rest abstained. Thank you. It's carried.
Right, thank you. Right, Ros, it's the other part of that small grant is where some of us have got to leave the meeting because we've got interests. So there's me, the people that are on the Charles Burrell.
Can I just clarify? There's pecuniary interest and there's non-pecuniary interest.
Okay.
If you don't personally financially gain, or you don't, then it's non-pecuniary and you can stay in the meeting. If you're directly personally financial gain, that's a pecuniary and you would want to leave, whether that's indirect or direct.
Right, okay. I don't personally gain, so I can stay.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else that leaves? Carla, you need to leave.
Yes, but I do have one question just before I go. This has been going on, it's not only for only this case, but for others as well. It seems that to me it's a bit confusing to when I declare an interest. You do say that unless you gain personally, like Ros was mentioning, unless you gain personally financially, then it would be pecuniary. Every other interest or whether any other participation in or a vested interest would be non-pecuniary. Now, I'm a bit unsure when it comes to us being members of the organizations applying for grants, as we are one participant, one member, a volunteer of the organization. Personally, we have no financial gain. We're just acting on behalf of the charities of the organizations that are applying. I just want to make sure which one is which, please.
Did you want to say it, Ros? It's fine. Well, what I was going to say is, with the interest, I think it if the pecuniary interest is you have personal financial gain from it. However, if there's any sort of interest, it is often considered best practiced or well advised to say whatever interest that you have. And the thing is then it's completely transparent. And if you're not in the room, then there can never be any contest against it, because you weren't in the room to influence it. I mean, the joy of this is the video will be on YouTube forever. So you get to see what everybody says, but people then can't accuse you of being in the room and being able to influence the conversation. But it's entirely up to yourself.
So if I may, Tina, thank you for that clarification. Just to make it clear, I would either way have asked to leave the room, because obviously I have invested interest. I'm all for clarity and transparency. That's why I abstained from voting anything regarding today. So I would like to go out on this one, but I wasn't absolutely sure when is considered one or the other, and there seems to be a bit of an overlap. I was just for clarification purposes, but I will step out and let you guys deal with it. No worries. Thank you.
So we need to go through the 3 applications then first. Do we want to start with Charles Burrell? And Terry says that he needs to leave. So do we need to? I'm scared if I chuck him out.
I've just got rid of Terry in the nicest possible way. And I think that, and I'm just about to remove Carla.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll invite them back as soon as you've finished.
Lovely. So Charles Burrell.
Yeah, just a minute. I've just got to turn the light on. It's getting a bit dark in here.
Going back. So the Charles Burrell Centre had a grant from us in March 2019. So we've got their accounts for 2019, and we've got all of the other supporting documents, some of which Danny resent to us. So we've got all the documentation that we've got from them. What they're actually doing at the moment is they're helping 10 households a week with essential shopping packs. They're doing phone support, dog walking, emotional support to the vulnerable. They've been picking up prescriptions and things. And they're looking for a grant for 300. Does anybody want to comment? Does anyone want to comment on the Charles Burrell application? Have we a proposer?
Yeah,
I'll propose it.
That was Chris Harvey and Brenda Canham. Yeah.
Lovely. And can we have a vote on that, Chris?
Do you want to vote right the way through, top to bottom? Yeah, okay. Carla's not there, so I've got Roy Brain, please. Councillor Brain.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Brendel. Oh, he's not there. Oh, he's there, is he? Yeah, sorry. Councillor Crawford.
4.
Councillor Harvey.
4.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
4.
Councillor Hollis.
4.
Thank you. Councillor James.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, sorry. Councillor Robinson.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
4.
Well, that's unanimous then. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
If we move on to Simple then. Simple, the last time Simple had an application from us was back in 2016. It was November 2016, which actually takes them outside the 3 years that we've just approved. But the email I sent out to applicants, I did say 4 years, but at the moment that will take them out. And when they did apply for that time, they applied as a new organisation to us. So we didn't actually have their accounts. We had a a predicted 6-month income expenditure from them. But Carla has now sent us a revised constitution, and she sent us the accounts that were submitted to the Charities Commission, but they weren't signed off. They weren't. We normally ask for them to be independently verified, and they weren't for the Charities Commission. What the Simple have been doing is they've been out and about from the very beginning. They've been doing food parcels. They've been door-to-door delivery. They've been buying Fair Share food, and they've been collecting from businesses donations. Apparently, they've given 2.5 tons of supplies out. They are part of the like Breckland and Keystone, who we'll talk about last, are all working with the Breckland Emergency Help Hub, and they're looking for help for fuel costs, food, and freezers as well. Then anybody got questions or comments to make on that one?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Go, Jen.
Freezers. Why do they need freezers? Where are they dealing from? What will happen to the freezers after they're finished?
Can I answer that, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. They've been working in collaboration with Keystone. They're operating out of Cafe One. So there's a temporary arrangement working out of Cafe One in the Innovation Centre.
And there as well, please.
Can I come back as well, please? Ross?
Yeah. So,
Can I
Mark,
come in?
You first, then Jen. Mark first, then Jen.
Yeah, Mark's just told you where they're operating out of. Also, I'm aware of there's a lot of frozen and fresh meat being donated to them at the minute, and getting it all out and looking after it is a bit of a problem. That is where the freezers would come in handy. It's to do with the logistic problem. I wouldn't like to comment on what would happen to the freezers after it, but if we're given a grant, we could come up with an idea for it. Thank you.
I've got Jenny to come back, and then Dennis. Ros.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor-elect. My concern is public money. Yes, they're doing a very good job, as they all do. Been brilliant help to the communities. But my concern is public money being spent on freezers. What will happen to these freezers at the end of the day? Thank you.
Can I come back in, Ros?
I think.
Oh, here we go. I can see everyone now.
I think Dennis was next, then Jane, and then you again, Mark.
Yeah, Jenny covered most of what I had to say then. They are doing a really good job, and we should be supportive of them. But these freezers, are they going to be left in the CAF for them to use in the future, or what? I mean, it's a hard thing, because if they are getting frozen food, they need somewhere to store it. But could we be putting money into what is, you know, a commercial operation? Because where are you going to put the freezers after if and when this ever ends? That was my concern.
Yeah, just a minute. I'm just going to answer Dennis there. I don't think they'll be able, once this is all over, they couldn't leave them in the innovation centre. They've got their own cafe to run, you know. So no, they couldn't leave them there.
Yeah, but is the CAF going to use them afterwards, or where are they going to put them? Are they going to donate them to?
We have got they have got their own.
Jane James, and then Mark.
Thank you, Ros and Madam Mayor. Can I just have clarification on one point, please? Did you state that we do not have independently verified accounts, please?
No, we don't, because when they first applied to us, we had an estimated budget, and although we have the accounts that were submitted to the Charities Commission, it doesn't look like they've been verified.
can we defer this till the next out meeting?
Can I come in, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a comment that we seem to be looking down the pipe about what happens to these freezers, you know, when this is all over. I have had some engagement with this group, so I'm seeing what they're doing, and I think on one particular week it was 500 kilos of produce, that fresh fruit and veg that come from Fairshare from their depot in Ipswich. So I suggest that actually we need to be looking at now. They're supporting vulnerable people within our community. And we're in a time that's quite unprecedented. I swore to myself I wouldn't use that word tonight, but there you go. I've broken my promise. We are in unprecedented times, and we're developing new ways of working, this being an example tonight. So I'm tended to actually support the application on the simple basis they're supporting our community.
So is that a proposal, Mark?
No, I'm trying to get it back in there. But Mark jumped in. I was happy as long as the mayor comes back to me, because I know she doesn't like me talking.
So back to Mark Taylor, then Stuart Wright, and then Roy Brame.
Yeah, just to put a bit of more clarification on this, because there seems to be a few of the councillors don't fully understand what's going on. They actually moved from the football club, where they were given a room, into the Innovation Centre cafeteria. And this was because they're being given that much food, they had no room to move and administrate it into the boxes to where it had to go. As it's gone on longer and people are running out of money as the crisis has gone on, there's more people now coming online for the food, needing the food. Consequently, they put the call out to all the factories and all the farmers to help them. And what's happening is people are turning up at all different times of the day, dropping stuff off. Now, I know some of them who are doing it are running out, picking stuff up, and the kids are trying to pack things into boxes. And what's happening is the frozen stuff that's being delivered, a lot of it is just sitting there, and they haven't got the capacity to get it into boxes because they haven't got enough helpers. And when it does go into the boxes, it's got to be in a controlled format to then be given out by the willing taxi drivers. So a freezer or whatever they need on the freezing side is needed now. I agree with what Mark said. It's needed now. I'd like to put a caveat on it. If any of the councillors are worried about what's going to happen to those freezers, is that the caveat is we can have joint ownership of them because some of the money's with us and we can use them and give them out as and when needed. In line with their little charity. But let's have a bit of common sense on this, and because it's needed now.
Shall we move to Stuart now?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ros. Yes, really following on from Councillor Robinson's thoughts, we are dealing with the now. A lot of things are being waived just to try and get people help. And I think we do need to show, we've had the example of trying to get these grants facilitated. So let's not stop the good work that's going to happen if we don't give them the money. You know, I think, quite honestly, I think they've expended a lot of money from other resources to do these things, and this will just be a little help towards that. There's a lot of good work going on, not just with that organisation, but others. And I think we've got to be pragmatic about the situation. The need is now, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, as Councillor Taylor's alluded to. As people run out of money, they're going to need more and more support. So I think we mustn't get hung up about where the freezers are. As you say, we can just add anything. If they're sold at a later date, we get the proceeds back or something like that. Roy might even want to buy them and pass them on, but yeah, it's not hung up about the freezers. Let's get the support that we need to these organisations that are doing great work.
Roy? Roy?
Yeah, thanks, Ros. Yeah, I must admit, I really don't know where the discussion is going. They only want 300 quid. They ain't going to be buying that many freezers. It will help them to try and do something. The help needs doing now. And and there is not a, you know, there is nothing that we can actually do. Unfortunately, all of my loan stuff is already out. Otherwise, I would have tried to loan them some stuff, but other people have got first. But we must look after them. You know, they're doing a grand job, so let them have the money and forget about the freezers. They won't be buying that many.
Dennis?
Can I just remind Madam Mayor that it's 9 o'clock, please?
Yes, councillors, can you just hold it for a moment? And I forgot what I had to do now.
You have to ask them to suspend standing.
You have to ask them to suspend standing orders.
Yeah, councillors, could you please suspend standing orders so we can finish the meeting?
Agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, can we have Dennis is the last speaker then, and then we go to a vote.
Since I put my hands up, I've been convinced it's a good idea, so I don't need to comment on it. Thank you.
Do you want to propose it then, Dennis?
Yeah, I propose we give them the grant.
Thank you. Seconder, please.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Who was that? Sorry.
That was Roy and Mark. Both.
Right. Thank you.
Let Roy
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to go through again. Thank you. Councillor Bretter's not here. Councillor Brame.
For.
Brindle, please.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
For.
Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
For.
Councillor Hollis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
For.
Again, that's carried easily. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Back to you, Roy. Roy, you got one more?
Oh yeah, the final one is Keystone. Now this is a new application form, so they were required to send everything through to us. They again working with Brecklands Help Hub. They're doing food parcels, food donations. They're doing the door-to-door deliveries. They're doing befriending phone calls, which is nice, and they're doing entertainment packs for children, which I thought was quite cute. And they're doing I've mentioned the prescription stuff. So that's Keystone, and they sent all the documentation through because they are basically a new applicant to us.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to declare a non-pecuniary interest as a trustee.
Yeah, thank you. I've already done mine.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, Ros, can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Is there any overlap on the Keystone thing and the simple thing that we had before?
I think Charles Burrell and Keystone are working closely together. I don't think there's any competition particularly between people. I think there's plenty of people to help.
I can answer that actually, because we've been working with Keystone. Keystone aren't operating out of the same building as Carla is. Keystone are running a slightly different operation. Ricky and Alison are working from home, and they're doing more on the social prescriptions and things like that, as opposed to collecting the food that Carla is. So Keystone and Simple are not doing the same thing.
Ah, right, okay.
Have we a proposer for Keystone?
Yeah. Hello, I put my hands up there.
Oh no, I missed you. Sorry, Dennis.
Okay, I didn't want to. I don't know if I have to declare, but I've been a recipient of Keystone's help since my lockdown and everything. So does that make me having a pecuniary kind of interest because I have received help from them?
Dennis, you won't be getting any of the money.
Oh, damn. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Help me out, yeah.
So is there a seconder?
Jen put her hand up as well.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to call through now then again. So I've got Councillor Brame.
For.
Yeah, Brindle, Councillor Brindle, please.
4.
Councillor Crawford.
4.
Councillor Harvey.
4.
Councillor Hodgkinson.
4.
Councillor Hollis.
4.
Thank you. Councillor James.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Wright.
4.
So that's a clear majority, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. So you're all okay with all that now, Ross?
Yep, thank you.
Right. So moving on then to 875/19 Thetford Croxton Road shared use. Have we let Carla back in? Does anyone know?
So I've invited her.
I didn't hear the doorbell.
Carla is in and muted.
Oh,
And that's
all right.
it.
All right,
I'm
so
back
moving
now.
on, to receive councillor comments on the shared use, follow the link below. And there's your map.
I put a map. Can you see the map, Chair?
We can see the map. Yes, it's lovely. Any questions, councillors? Or comments?
Can I kick off?
Hey?
Yeah, give us an overview on this.
Pardon?
Just give me a quick overview. I'm behind the drug curve.
I don't know what you mean, Mark. Have
Is
you not
Tina
read-
online, Tina?
Mark Robinson's going to explain, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Mark Robinson wasn't. He was going to make some comments on the scheme. So I shall proceed with that, and hopefully there might shed some light for Councillor Taylor.
Okay.
Okay. I'm in favour of the scheme because it encourages people to use other forms of transport, particularly up and down to the academy. I was somewhat surprised, though, to see that the shared use pathway is on the west side of the road rather than the east, because if you look, most of the residences are along the west side of that road. There is more amenity space rather along the east side, and that will have less impact on people's residences. My other comment is it's a shared cycleway for and going to and from the academy. I'm wondering what the barrier is, because that you have people going against the flow of traffic. So I'm wondering what the mitigating features are for cyclists and pedestrians in what will be a reasonably confined space, with traffic flowing in a different direction to some of that cycle and pedestrian traffic.
I have Roy and Terry. Roy first, then Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a scheme that came up from the proposals that went through the Greater Thetford, or whatever it was called in its day, for them to look at cycle access. Ideally, the other side of the road would have been really nice, but that is most of the curtilage. That side is in private ownership, and it was also felt that the children could go through the estates on that side because they all actually interlink to bring them up nearer the school. Most of the children used the main road. Talking to the academy, they are really concerned about what is happening. They need to get the children off the road, and this is basically the only scheme that they're going to be. I think it goes with the cost of everything, and it's something that, as I say, is greatly needed for more safety for the children. So hopefully Thetford Town Council will support it.
Well, I have Terry, Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A bit like Roy, really, I've been quite involved in this with my county council hat on. Members will recall the roundabout that was built along the Mumford Road, which was actually built using the money which was supposed to be for sustainable transport in Thetford, i.e. supporting walking and cycling. But they used it, the majority of it, for the roundabout, and the money that's left over is basically what's being used to create this cycle path along Croxton Road. It's really frustrating that the original intention was about sustainable transport, and we're getting something that is good, but it's far from perfect. It could be an awful lot better. So I have raised a few concerns with my county council hat on, and I know a number of others have as well. For example, the width of the path is only going to be about 2.7 metres. So the potential for conflict between pedestrians and cyclists is actually going to be quite a significant issue. There's not going to be separation. And I think in most cases, people will continue to choose to cycle on the road rather than cycling on the path and coming into conflict. So it's going to be a big issue. I have emailed county this week to ask what consultation has taken place, particularly with Sustrans, which obviously do have a presence locally, but I know they've not been involved, and also what formal consultation there's been with the academy, because if we're spending the money doing it, we need to make sure it's fit for purpose and people are actually going to use it. It's very frustrating. It doesn't go the full length of the road. There's not sufficient crossing points and sort of intersections. But that said, like so much about local government, do you accept what you've been given and hope for something more or something better in the future, which is probably what's going to happen? We'll have half a cycle shared walkway and all the rest of it, and maybe the rest in another day. But at least we are having some money spent on this, but it's far from perfect.
Thank you, Terry. I have Stuart, Mike Brindle, and then Jenny.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just similar to earlier comments, and people probably saw my comments when the emails came round. This was a scheme about 10 years ago that they were putting forward. The town council at the time didn't feel it was on the right side, and due to that objection and I think probably monetary things, it was pulled. And as Terry said, it's come back to the table because they want to spend some money with what's left over. I think, we've got to suck it, really. It's going to provide a little bit of extra capacity coming up one side, so the path will be a little wider. It's not going to, at peak times, the people going to the school and back are both on both sides of the path, into the road and everything. They'll provide a little bit of extra capacity. So I think we've got to go with it, but we've got to keep demanding for better, because with the extra houses that are coming, we're getting shortchanged. We're getting not the infrastructure that we need. And I do think this is just such poor service and unfortunately, because of the money situation is going to get worse, we're not going to have everything, but we've been shortchanged on this, but we've got to go with it.
Mike Brindle.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree we've been shortchanged, but we need to accept this as being the best we're likely to get. It's not 10 years ago, Stuart, it's over 20 years ago that we fought to get this when the school was half the size it is now, probably less than half the size it is now. It was much needed then, it's desperately needed now. I'm hoping that the academy students in particular will tend to split so that one side is largely occupied by people cycling, and the other side of the road, the path on the footpath on the other side of the road is largely occupied by people walking. Hopefully that will be sort of self-determining. Let's go for what we can get, because I don't really want to see us waiting another 20 years for something absolutely basic. This is something that we should have had years ago. We've got a chance to get it now. There is some money. There will not be more because, as Stuart said, money is going to be in even more short supply. So please support this.
Jennifer Hollis.
Thank you. Yes, we're definitely being shortchanged up here again. With the forgotten part of town, I think. The academy growing, as you've said, Mike, over 20 years we've been waiting for this. you've got the extension on Drake. I think it's definitely the wrong side of the road because of the thing. It's definitely the wrong side. I'm just worried about the pedestrians and the bikes. I mean, you know, when you look at when the academy's emptying at 3 o'clock time, it's like a herd of locusts coming down the road. And this is what people are in the road, as you say, cars are crawling because the bikes. I wish they could come up with something slightly better. I do think the residents up here again are being shortchanged.
Can you see what the letter is asking? It's asking for a reply by today, or if you require more time, please contact them as soon as possible.
I think it sounds like the majority of councillors are doing their replies now. Chris.
Thank you.
Can I just intercede there? We actually need a comment from the council because, you know, I've sent emails backwards and forwards. So we need overriding comments like you would in planning. And I have an extension until tomorrow morning to put they're expecting my email in the morning. So we need an agreed comment.
Yeah. Okay. Jane James wants to come in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the risk of doing your job for you, I think we have a consensus. We welcome the investment, but could try harder, as my school report used to say, I think, Mr. Brindle.
Who wrote it?
Mr. Brindle.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Thank heavens.
So Tina, you need a written.
Yes, like you would for any planning application.
Yeah. Okay. Carla wants to come in. Carla.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I was just going to say I agree with Councillor James and most of the remaining councillors. I believe some improvements are better than none, although there's a lot to be said for how much investment we get in that part of town. But I'll be repeating what other councillors said. But I'm in agreement with the majority. Thank you.
I think we've got a majority of agreement. How do you want do you want the wording now, Tina?
Yes, it needs to be agreed now.
Oh, yeah, but do you need the wording now?
Yes, I do, yes.
Okay, so councillors that agree, could I please have some wording like you would do any other planning application? Mike, you're the planning man. What do you normally write down?
I think we should simply say that Thetford Town Council gives its full support to this overdue improvement. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Do you all agree with that? Just say aye.
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 Well, I think you've got full agreement and you've got the wording now, Tina.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mike has his hand up.
Sorry, Brenda. We've done it now.
Oh, okay. Right, so that's that. So we'll move on then to 876/19, which is committee officers update. Have you got any updates you wish to tell us about, officers?
No, I don't think there's anything extra to bring to the table today. I'm just in the background talking to the other officers, and we hope to have the information out for mayor making for you in the next couple of days.
Thank you. Well, I would just like to say thank you to all the officers, because I think they've done a brilliant job. You know, I know they say that it's the two youngsters that done the VE online celebrations, but you know, it took all the officers to pull together to get that. So thank you very much for that. Well done to you all. Moving on to 877/19 community engagements to discuss and agree any consultation or media releases. Obviously, the mayor making would be a media release. Anybody got anything else sent out? Jane, hand up.
Would it not be
You have
appropriate
your
to,
hand up.
would it not be appropriate to do a media release, a further media release in terms of the small grants?
Yes, good idea. I've got Roy with his hand up. And I'm
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I must admit, Jane just got in there. I was going to say we've got the small grant bit. I had a question as well. How many do we know? How many YouTube viewers we got, and would it be worth making a fuss or not a fuss about how many people we had today on this marvellous new concept, which is the way councils are going to go in the future, I believe. And I just wondered how many of the public joined us.
We had a few, Roy, but then you started talking, so I don't know what it ended up with.
There you go. That's the way to stop it.
I think at one stage, like when I briefly looked, there was about 15 people on there. So that's more than we get to our actual meetings. But I would have to defer to those who actually know things about YouTube and get back to you with an answer on that later.
Can I say something, Chief Clerk?
Yeah, certainly.
I'd just like to again disagree with Councillor Brame. If this is the way the council is going to be held in the future, I'll be throwing myself under the first train.
Can I second that?
I didn't actually say that, Mark. That was another councillor said that earlier on, that we were 20 years ahead of the time.
Well, it's just you Tories talking about 2021. We're all going to be locked behind the couch till February next year. I just don't trust anything you lot are saying. It sounds like you just want to wallow in pity.
Mark. Can I just say, I don't know whether you noticed your screens, but although this is on YouTube now, people can come back and watch it in a week, 2 weeks' time. I mean, I'm still looking at the VE, so you know it's always there. So.
Anyway, I'd like to say that I think it's gone quite well, and next time we will have the electronic voting, so you'll have the poly polls ready to go. We just wanted to give the councillors more time to practice with it before we forced it on you live in a meeting.
Can I say one more thing?
No, can you wait a minute, Mark, because somebody had their hands up and I missed them. Was it Jenny? Somebody put their hand up.
I had my hand up.
Who's that?
Stuart had his hand up.
Oh, right, Stuart. I knew I'd missed somebody. Stuart.
It's just really related to mayor making, and a question for Jane really about the Citizens Awards. Are we going to try and announce those, even though we won't be able to formally present them? But I think if we are working towards keeping the calendar going, is that something we ought to announce as well?
If I may, the plan was, and as was approved by the council, that we did it at the annual town meeting. Obviously that didn't happen. I am presuming that mayor making will take place as a virtual meeting somehow. If that's the case, let's do it.
Yeah, it will be a virtual meeting on the 26th, I believe. So it's whether you have that or we let the boys to do it as a separate event to give more time to get videos of the people, perhaps.
That could be fairer.
Can I just say that I'm in full agreement with my fellow councillors, Wright and James? Yes, we are the civic committee and we did vote for that. So why not do it? I think Jane's spot on, and we ought to go on with it.
We can keep to the 2 distance wall.
Sorry, you broke up, Madam Mayor.
Somehow. Yeah, I said we will keep to the 2 distance rule. We can manage it somehow, I'm sure.
The mayor makeup will be in the same format as this meeting.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, councillor Taylor.
I'd like to get on some sort of agenda. Why can't we pick a nice day, get 6 feet apart, because I'm English, not 2 meters, and get in King's House Gardens on a nice day with our rig on and do it there? Why do we
The
have to
trust
meet
has
on here?
closed King's House Gardens for the moment.
We can open it up again as long as it's a nice day and we social distance within the rules. There's nothing to stop us doing it. We can let so many of the people in and make sure they've got somewhere to sit. We don't need to do this. I mean, when I go up to buy my groceries at Tesco, I don't have a problem. We could have a town meeting in the gardens. It would be lovely.
Councillor Roy.
Yeah, some of us are shielding the old and the vulnerable, and have been doing self-isolation for a long time. I don't see any point. I know Mark thinks this is all something that's been made up, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm staying in as much as I possibly can, and I'm certainly not going to any real meetings, King's Gardens or anywhere else.
That could be slander, that, councillor, and I hope I don't see you in Tesco's.
Madam Mayor, may I make a comment, please?
You may, Mr. Taylor. Mark Robinson, sorry.
I used to like you. Madam Mayor, seeing this directly affects my good self on this occasion, can I suggest you as the incumbent mayor, myself, the chair of Civic and the clerk set up a Zoom meeting ASAP to talk about the best way forward and then feed it back to our colleagues?
Yes. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Right. So anything else that we need to send out community engagement wise? No. I'm now going to move on to 878/19, exclusion of press and public, to consider resolving that pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, the press and the public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the ground that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. Thank you. Could we please turn off recording of the...
Can I just clarify with the town clerk that it's being turned off at YouTube, and I'll carry on with this recording. Town clerk.
Yes, we're just in the process